Could there be anything more strange than Barack Obama winning the Nobel Prize for peace before he did anything, only to then follow that up with a massive disaster in the Middle East that led to the Arab Spring and led to the wonderful alliance that we had with Iran? And yet everyone is now looking at Donald Trump and saying he's a monster. He has reversed everything in the Middle East. And now we have another embassy being built and another ally coming out and saying, yep, we recognize Israel and we're working with Israel. This is one of the biggest success stories of any presidency in my lifetime. What's been happening in the Middle East, what's been happening when Donald Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem, and now this UAE deal. We have ambassador to Israel from the United States, David Friedman, on with us. David, this is, I'm hearing from the New York Times and everybody else, this is no big deal. It's really, kind of sketchy, whatever they're saying. Donald Trump did the opposite of Barack Obama, and it is paying off big time. Tell me about this deal.
Hi, Glenn. It's good to be with you. Well, look, if it was no big deal, why didn't the Obama administration get it done? I mean, it is a big deal, and look, in this business, we're all prone a little bit to hyperbole, but we all use the word historic probably too often. But not here. Not here. I mean, this is an incredibly significant breakthrough. Look, an Arab country hasn't recognized Israel in 26 years. And what's happened here is that, after being not just neglected, but really abandoned, and I would say even betrayed by the Obama administration over that term, both Israel and the Emirates, because this insane deal that President Obama made with Iran was equally threatening to Israel and the Emirates alike. After those 8 years, the president comes in and says, you know what? He says to by far our greatest ally in the region, I think our greatest ally in the world, Israel, and to an ever increasingly important friend and ally, the Emirates, the president restored trust between America and these two countries. And, it's tough to rebuild trust. In human relations, when you betray somebody, it's awfully hard to regain their trust, and it was not easy to regain the trust, but he did. And now, you have this historic moment, which I believe the president referred to it as an icebreaker, and I think it's going to cascade and really change the paradigm of the Middle East. Israel will become safer, more prosperous, and secure.
So that's one of the questions. Do you see this embassy building and good relations with Israel cascading into Saudi Arabia or any of these other countries?
Well, look, I don't want to put pressure on any particular country because, we were able to achieve success with the Emirates by really keeping it quiet. In Washington, everything leaks, right? This is this huge secret, was just kept under wraps until we announced it. I want to give all the other countries the same space and the same opportunity.
Sure.
But to answer your question, sure. Of course, this is going to have an effect. The first country is always the hardest. The second country is the next most difficult. And 3, 4, 5, it really just becomes easier and easier and easier because they all have cover and they all, there's safety in numbers. And of course, we see this happening because all these countries, first of all, there's a common threat, which is always helpful, in terms of diplomacy. But it's not just the common threat from Iran. There's a huge upside here. All these countries are trying to emerge from, for kind of tribal conflicts and ancient grievances, move into the 21st century, gain access to technology, defense mechanisms, cybersecurity, bio defense, all the things that Israel, punches way above its weight. And they want to be with Israel, and they want to be with the United States. That's the future. That's the future of the world. And they're starting to recognize it.
So the the embassy being moved by the United States into Jerusalem, which everyone always said, lead to war, lead to war, lead to war. Everything that Donald Trump has done, and I think Kushner deserves an awful lot of credit. I was not a fan of the Trump administration or Kushner at the very beginning, but the proof is in the pudding. I was absolutely wrong on so much of almost everything that I said that I thought Donald Trump would do. In the Middle East, he is, they deserve the credit. How much of this came from two things? One, the moving of the embassy, and two, this, go ahead, just, you know what? West Bank, that's what you want to call it. Take it. Take it.
Yep.
How much of this was Donald Trump's kind of Tiffany's story? I don't know if you know that story of Tiffany's, but his negotiating skills.
Yeah, the signal was enormously important, beginning with Jerusalem. It was the law of the land for 25 years and ignored by Clinton, Bush, and Obama alike. The president says, look, I made a promise to do this. It's very important to my credibility in the region to keep my promise. Look, in the Middle East, you have two things: you have credibility and you have strength. If you have those two things, there's the possibility of success. If you don't have both of them, and frankly, Obama had neither, but if you don't have both of them, you're heading into a quagmire. And so the president said, look, I made this promise. I'm going to keep my promise, and I'm not going to be threatened by, rogue regimes that are threatening the United States. Nobody threatens the United States. We're not going to have some small terrorist group threaten the United States. That was an enormous signal. And it signaled to Israel, of course, that he had their back, and it signaled to the other nations that he could be trusted, that he could be counted upon, and they said, look, we want to be with him. We don't want to be with some kind of weak guy. This is not the part of the world to be weak or to be hesitant, and it really, I think, set him up for this particular success yesterday.
How concerned do you think UAE and Saudi Arabia and everybody else in the Middle East is, our allies, that if you would listen to the press, there's no way Donald Trump is going to win? And the threat of not just a reversal of the Trump policies here, but even more Marxist tendencies and more love for the UAE's enemies of Iran and everything else. Are they concerned at all about this election going and turning the tide back towards the former administration?
Well, of course they are. Of course they are. I mean, when it's the policies. It's not the people. It's the policies. When people are campaigning on a promise to re-enter the JCPOA, that's a mortal threat to all these countries. I mean, you're talking about empowering the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. People who have fanatical Islamic extremists that are threatening to destroy Israel and frankly threatening the region. And look, I come from a family of Holocaust survivors. My view is, when someone threatens to kill the Jews, you better take them seriously. And
every time.
And unfortunately, that wasn't the case in the last administration. And I really, I think everyone is petrified about that possibility.
So one last question, and it's kind of off of the UAE deal. By the way, just congratulations to the administration. Legitimately, if this was a legitimate organization, he should receive the Nobel Prize for this. This is a massive, massive deal.